California Senator Kamala Harris is becoming a shining hope for the hard left in the 2020 presidential race. Yes, we are already talking about that. Isn't that fun? We're 2018. We're already in 2020. Oh, MP is shaking her head. It's fine. And she has liberal heart swooning even more after a report that her office, check this out, refused to even accept a courtesy phone call from the White House counsel's office about, of course, the Supreme Court pick. They wanted, of course, to discuss the Kavanaugh appointment. Her office is now denying that exact, precise characterization. But regardless, Senator Harris is on a relentless campaign to beef up her left-wing bona fides. And it doesn't hurt that she's reportedly a longtime favorite of former President Obama's. But can she reach Obama-like status with the left? Here to discuss is Congressman Sean Duffy and Austin Dove, an attorney who's run in many of the same legal circles as Senator Harris. Great to have you both on. All right, Kamala Harris, I see her as a likely 2020 frontrunner. I don't think it's going to be Elizabeth Warren. I don't think it's going to be Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden is not going to resurrect the Amtrak Express. That's not. Hillary is not going to be with the Scooby-Mobile. That's not going to happen. It's going to be someone like Kamala Harris. Now, Mr. Dove, you know Kamala Harris. What about her versus Barack Obama? Are they of the same epic, star-like quality for the Democrats?
Well, other than the fact that it's kind of trite to say just because of their ethnicity is similar in terms of being biracial, they're obviously both from the Democratic Party. They're very strong candidates, but they come from different beginnings and different origins. Kamala's background was steeped in local politics first, then headed the district attorney's office in a very large county in California, in San Francisco area, and then became the state attorney general before becoming a senator. Barack Obama's background was much more grassroots, working with organizations before he came on to the political stride and gained traction as a senator and popularity through his speeches and so on, his connection to the voters. I think in any sense, we want a candidate who resonates with the voters, someone who can connect, someone who has a strong background in policy, in lawmaking, and understanding how to work across the table in different circles. And I think Kamala is that candidate.
Austin, you lost me at work across the table. You were doing really well until you got to that point. And by the way, I raised her as a woman who's a former prosecutor, very strong background in the law as Obama. I don't think it wasn't anything about her ethnicity. It's about the fact that she has. It's about the fact that she has a pedigree and is now trying to push a more her left-wing bona fides, much more so than just her days as a prosecutor, which I think are really interesting. But let's talk about what she said today about Brett Kavanaugh. Didn't sound like she was interested in working across the aisle. Let's watch.
Listen, if you are a young woman in America, or you care about a young woman in America, pay close attention to this nomination. Pay close attention, because Kavanaugh has made his purpose clear. It's about government taking on the decision about a woman and what she does with her body, instead of giving that woman and her family and her God the power to make the decision for herself.
Okay, so Brett Kavanaugh is essentially, we're supposed to believe, Sean Duffy, standing at a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic and barring women from going in. That's what the woman who is the 2020, I think, likely presidential contender.
Laura, first, set that aside. I mean, I think that Kamala Harris is talking about protecting women's rights. How about protecting a woman when she's in the womb as an infant? Someone who's the most vulnerable in any stage of life when they're in the womb. And I know that's not the debate we're having here, but the fact that you're talking about women's rights and not protecting women's rights in the womb is outrageous. That aside, I think, and I think your intro was absolutely correct. When we talk about Kamala Harris and Barack Obama, it's not about race. It's not about their background. It's about who can be radical, who can be a leader of the resist movement, who can be the biggest hater of Donald Trump. Because if you're a Democrat, there's no ideas, there's no policy that you can run on. It's just being a resistor. Not only that, but I think Democrats are so engaged in what's happening right now because if you can't win at the ballot box, if you can't win votes in Congress, you have to look to the courts to have activist judges that will implement your progressive liberal socialist policies for you, because you can't do it in Congress and you can't win the hearts and minds of voters. And so you want to have the activist court initiative, and you also have who's going to lead the resist movement. And Kamala, I think, fits both of those, or Senator Harris, I should say, fits both of those narratives.
Now, Austin, Austin, I remember the comment that Barack Obama made not too long ago about Kamala Harris, and this is why people still today say, of all the people out there, possible people running in 2020, she's probably his favorite. Let's watch.
I'm out in California. We're at a fundraiser. We're having a nice time. I happen to mention that Kamala Harris is the best-looking attorney general in the country. As you might imagine, I got trouble when I got back home. Who knew Eric Holder was so sensitive?
Haha. Well, I thought we weren't supposed to objectify women who are went to prestigious law schools. I'm just teasing. See, I think that kind of humor is fine, but the left, Obama can make those jokes, but conservatives can't. But Austin, what's your thought here? I mean, is she the Kamala Harris, the tough-nosed prosecutor, or is she the Kamala Harris, if you care about women, then you have to stop Brett Kavanaugh? Because to me, the latter is just not going to resonate with Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Well, I don't think those two are mutually exclusive, nor do I think the fact that being an attractive woman sort of excludes you from being politically adept and capable of being a leader the way Kamala has demonstrated.
No, I'm talking about commenting on it. Do you comment on people's looks, Austin, while you're... I mean, you probably don't, because that's just not... most of us in polite circles are told not to talk about that. I actually think it's funny. I think that's where Barack Obama is very charming, but the left never has a sense of humor on that. Conservatives do it, but that's beside the point. The point is Kamala Harris going to resonate with mainstream America, or is she going to stay in the resistance mode, fight Trump all the way?
Well, first of all, her comments about her thoughts about what's happening with women's rights coming up in certain swing decisions that will be taking place coming up, I think it's important for her to establish up front and say, this is where I stand on this. And I think that we're talking about a more than 40-year-old precedent that may be up on the block again. That's important for her to articulate that very clearly as well. As far as what her viewpoints are, can she gain traction, come outside of the resist mode as you've characterized it? I don't think that's where she really sits. I think as a former prosecutor, as you indicated at the outset, I think she's got strong chops there. I think she's got strong chops in lots of policy.
Lots of policy. You keep saying lots of policy. I'm not trying to be difficult here, but Sean, you're in Congress. What is the Democrats' agenda?
I'm talking about
what agenda do the Democrats have except stop Trump? They have zero agenda. So I'd love to hear the policy that Kamala Harris is advancing to get people more jobs, higher wages, et cetera, except raising the minimum wage in California. That's all she does.
It's single payer and a federal job for everybody. But we're talking about 2020. If you look at 2018, just one second. If you look at 2020 or 2018, you can't energize Democrats any more than they already are. This Supreme Court issue is going to energize their right, and actually, we're going to gain seats in the Senate. You talked about this. We actually might gain House seats because you're energizing the
really
right
optimistic,
because of what's happened in the Supreme Court.
All right, Austin, you can close it out real quick.
Well, I would beg to differ in your the other guest own state, Wisconsin, that's shifting very much blue as a result of the very things that he's talking about right now. So those are up on the blocks.
Yeah, the pollsters said Hillary Clinton was going to win as well. The pollsters are wrong.
All right, guys, we're out of time. We're out of time, but I will say this. The Democrats at some point have to offer an affirmative agenda beyond single payer, abortion in every pot. I'm sorry, but we got to have more. We got to have more than just hate on Trump.
Those are real policies that have a real impact on the voters today, and they will matter.
Okay. Well, I hope we hear a real substantive debate.